we flew in that morning. We were assigned our trainers. We go to our areas. And so I had no idea what to expect. And I just know that I'm excited to be there. And I had my trainer and another companion, so there were three of us. And just about as soon as we got to our apartment and I dropped my things off, we got a call from a local member, and she was less active, but she called for a blessing because she was just having a really hard time and was feeling sick. And so we said, we'll be right over. So we walked over, and it was kind of crazy because she had like 8 or 9 cats just kind of going through the house, and she was on her 8th cup of coffee that day, and she just said she had a headache and just felt really bad. And so I remember whipping out my handbook, trying to remember how to do a blessing, and I think it was just there that I was like, wow, I'm doing it. You know, I'm serving people already, and so it was a lot of fun, but it's kind of interesting experience, different, not what I thought, you know. But I think that's missionary work. It's hardly ever what you think it's going to be, and always what Heavenly Father knows it's going to be. And so I learned that on my first day, and then that week, yeah, it was just not what I thought it was going to be. You know, you have this idea of what a mission is all your life. Growing up, you look at these missionaries and you think they're just larger than life, and you get there and you are one, and you don't feel that way, and it's a little different, but humbling, and so the people were awesome there. They always loved the help of the missionaries, and whether they were the bishop or these people that were just calling for a blessing but hadn't been to church in years. So it was a good experience to kind of start things off for me. So it's actually quite a bit different now, because when they created several new missions a year and a half ago or so, 2 years maybe, they split the Idaho Boise mission into 3 missions. And so it's now the Idaho Boise mission, the Idaho Nampa mission, and the Idaho Twin Falls mission. But when I was there, it was all 3, and so the boundaries were south central Idaho, all the way to, it's probably the eastern quarter of Oregon, all the way up to the border of Oregon and Washington. And so it was probably a 6-hour drive from a little town called Declo, to LeGrand in Oregon, and then a time zone change as well. And so it was a huge mission. We had 190 missionaries, a couple visa waiters, a couple senior couples, and so usually over 200 missionaries there, and a temple in Boise, a temple in Twin Falls, and then one announced in Meridian, which is just the next town over from Boise. And so that was sort of the state of the mission, maybe geographically, when I was there. We went as far north as Cascade and a little town called Riggins, and then into Jackpot, Nevada. So there were 4 states in the mission. Now the Idaho Boise mission is basically Boise, Meridian, I think Eagle and Star are included in that, which is just 2 towns north of Meridian, and then a town called Idaho City, and so I think that's basically what it is. Very small compared to what it was, but still a lot of missionaries there, and there's Spanish and English in the Idaho Boise mission. And when I was there were about 40 Spanish-speaking missionaries in 2 zones, and then 10 zones of English-speaking missionaries, and so that was the bulk of the work. I think the city itself is about 250,000 in Boise, which is the largest city by far in Idaho. There are just 1.5 million in the whole state, and so that's where it's really the population center really is. You can be in so many different places though, right in Boise. I mean, it's kind of this historic part of Boise where the people ride their road bikes to work and eat granola and drive hatchbacks and things like that. And then there's the very, maybe what somebody would expect of Idaho, where they hunt and they have their bulls and like antlers on the mantelpiece and things like that. And so you get a wide range of things just right there in Boise, but that's sort of, you can expect a lot of different things, and sometimes you don't know what to expect when you go to a different place. But call it the banana belt, sort of this probably from like Caldwell, close to Mountain Home, where the temperature is actually not what you'd think of when you think of Idaho temperature, like the really windy, really cold in the winter. It's not necessarily that way in Boise, actually. In the winter, there'll be some snow. Maybe you get a snowfall of like 6 to 8 inches. But most times the snow melts before the end of the day. In fact, they rarely even send plows out during the winter. And so, yeah, really, it's not overly cold. You might get a week of like temperatures in the teens, but for the most part, it'll be in the 30s during the winter, high 20s or something like that. And so it's not too bad. In the summertime, you'll get a week or 2 or 3 of about 100, or maybe a week of 105 or something like that in July or August. And so it can get hot. I'd say it's probably hotter than it is cold, but so it's not quite the total extreme like you get, which would be in the Pocatello Mission, like Rexburg and Idaho Falls, and over there where it's just blistering cold all the time and everybody's miserable and you don't see the ground for 4 months or whatever. But so it's really nice, and the weather is, yeah, it's very manageable. You'd bring a coat, like a heavy coat, because it'll get cold. And then in the summertime, you'll want all short sleeve shirts and things like that. But you know, it's something that you can manage even while you're there. You can come with what you have and then just kind of adjust accordingly. It's not, you're not going to die if all you have is long sleeve shirts or short sleeve shirts, but you want to have a mix of both, because you know there's a pretty good range between hot and cold, just not too extreme. The people are amazing, and everybody says that about their mission and the people there, but these people are the kindest people I've ever met. And I think part of that is just the pace is just a little bit slower. They appreciate things around them. They notice things around them because they're not rushing from A to B. And that took some adjustment coming from New Jersey to Boise. Just slowing down and really appreciating and noticing what other people are doing, and smiling and waving. We could wave at anybody and people wave back, and just really appreciate that. And so I think that was something that I really enjoyed and just kind of miss. Also, it's very outdoorsy, and so people are always, you know, they're doing Ironmans, and you can't get places in the city because there's some you know, running path for a marathon or something like that. And I think that's a special part about Boise, is everybody's pretty active. Not everybody, but most people are pretty active, and they really love the outdoors. You can go, you know, whitewater rafting. You can float the Boise River. You can hike up in the mountains, and there's a lot of tourist attractions. I'd say the majority of the tourist attractions are outdoor places. In the Mission, which is now the Twin Falls Mission, there's a place called Sun Valley, which is a resort, and you hear a lot about different actors or celebrities that have homes up there and go there in the winter if they want to ski or snowboard. Like Shaun White has a house up there, I think, and Steve Carell, Bruce Willis. You know, we just hear these names and throw them around because it, you know, made the Mission seem awesome. And so but yeah, so there's places like that up in Cascade. There's a golf course that's rated top 25 in the country, Tamarack, I think it's called, and or that might be a resort, ski resort. But a lot of different outdoor places, and there's always outdoor events. 4th of July is big. They have festivals all through the summer where they do different things. There's the Western Idaho Fair in Boise that the missionaries would help out at a lot, and we'd either, you know, push senior citizens in wheelchairs or maybe have a booth or something like that. But a lot of different things, and I think that's just sort of this community type of culture where we all live near each other and we share like this great outdoors, and so we can kind of share our lives together a little bit. I think a little bit of that determines why people are friendly and like why they appreciate so much that you have to bring. And so, yeah, I mean, that was something I definitely loved about Boise. You'll hear this a lot among the missionaries, but there's a couple words that always stand out when we think about like the way Idahoans speak or whatever. Couple few or couple three is a term that you use. Most people would say a few of this or some of that or whatever. But hand me a couple few of those, whatever. And so that's something that we always, whenever anybody said it, the missionaries are glancing out of the corner of their eye, looking at their companions, because it's kind of this inside joke in the mission. But this one's a little more extreme. I don't know if I've ever actually heard it, but a Farsi as like a measured distance. So it's as far as you can see is how long it is. so go 2 Farsis down, blinker down, or turn left, and so that's a little extreme. I don't know that you ever hear those things, but those are things that the missionaries throw around all the time. A borrow pit, sort of the ditch on the side of the road, and I don't know. There are several things that are kind of unique to the Boise area that you just kind of pick up on, and it's fun. A few months in, you start using them unconsciously, and you feel like you're part of the culture there. But those are a couple of words that stand out to me as far as different things that I heard that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. I think the accent is fairly neutral. I think part of that is there are a lot of Californians. There's 2 huge firms, HP and Micron. And then there are a couple other. Simplot is another thing. That's another firm that they do all of like McDonald's frozen French fries and things like that. And so because of that, I think people come from a lot of different places in the West. And so it's kind of this mix. It's kind of neutralized the accent. It's not too crazy, but and so yeah, if you don't have much of an accent, you'll fit right in. But for sure, like an East Coast accent or anywhere in the South stands out like a sore thumb out there. So, but yeah, I don't know that it's much of an accent or something that you'd really notice if you're talking to somebody from Boise, like somewhere else. You wouldn't really think much of their accent. Food was awesome. I mean, if you were ever worried about what you'd have to eat on your mission, Boise is the place to go, because it was steak and potatoes most of the time. And so we love that, especially the further out you get from Boise. In Boise, there's different people, so you get different things. And I mean, the weirdest thing I actually ever had was balut, which is common in the Philippines. And I never thought I'd ever try it in Boise, but it's just kind of this hard-boiled, well, not quite hard-boiled, but just boiled duck egg, but it's already been fertilized for 2-3 weeks. And so you crack the shell open, and the outside's kind of hard-boiled, but as you're eating it, there's the beak and the feathers that you're chewing on, and some of the bones. I haven't quite like fertilized all the way, I guess, but that was really interesting experience, and I think, but that's the extreme. I think typically it's just, like I said, meat, potatoes. A lot of people do. There's a lot of hamburger places in Boise, and I mean even places that have been featured on different Food Network TV shows, and so, but it was never nothing too adventurous, nothing too crazy, except maybe on a couple of occasions. But there's a place, the West Side Drive-In, and they do this ice cream potato, they call it. And I thought it was potato flavored ice cream at first, but it's actually vanilla ice cream with some cocoa powder on it and like whipped cream that looks like sour cream, and it looks like just a baked potato, but you can eat it, it's ice cream. And it's pretty good. It's just one of those things you got to try when you're in Boise, because you can't get it anywhere else, or at least out of the state. And so, but I've had potatoes every way you can imagine. I can't even name all the ways that I've had the potatoes, but I love potatoes, so it's awesome. But everyone's great cooks. You get a lot of like elk and deer. We've had some duck, jerky, things like that. And so I tried some different things there, and almost everybody's got some portion of an elk that somebody gave them, or they hunted themselves, or whatever. So it's a lot of cool things to eat. If you love meat, you're awesome. You're good to go. And even if you don't know what you like, you'll be fine eating in Boise. It's good food. So obviously, the morning schedule is almost the same anywhere in the States. And so wake up, we're getting ready, exercising, studies, and things like that. 10 o'clock we'd leave, and usually there's somebody that needs a visit, whether it's somebody that's kind of lonely, maybe less active member. A service a lot of times is what we do in the mornings, and so there are just a ton of opportunities to do some physical labor, which can be nice sometimes, And so we change our clothes and go help somebody cut down some trees or mulch the backyard, plant, do whatever. And then some community service things too, help out at the soup kitchen or something like that. And that's what we do. Maybe come back for lunch around noon or 1. And then when we went back out, we'd do a lot of contacting or tracting, things like that. Just knocking on people's doors and talking to people on the street. And it's awesome in Boise because I always like to say the percentage of the population that are members of the church it's about 25% in Boise, and so chances are the people you see when you're just walking around aren't LDS, but one of their neighbors it probably is. And so it's a nice environment because you can talk to them. They've had experiences. Oh yeah, I know so-and-so who's a member. And it just kind of helps the discussion along as you talk about experiences and their interests and things like that. And so we do that for maybe a couple hours in the afternoon until dinner. And maybe there's an appointment here or there, 2, 3 or something like that. Dinner at 5, and the members are just so accommodating. They'll feed you whenever you want, whatever you want. Sometimes take you out or have you over at their home, and that's what I love. I love being in the homes. You see so many different kinds of families, little families, huge families, just the whole spectrum. And then ideally you'd have appointments 6, 7, 8 or something like that. And usually that's possible. There's lots of people that are willing to be taught and learn. And so we'd finish up the day teaching appointments in members' houses or in their own homes, these investigators. And that was kind of the typical day. We'd come back, we'd plan the next day, have a little bit of downtime, and then do the same thing the next day. And it's awesome, especially that evening time. Things maybe are a little slow in the morning, and then they really go fast, and all of a sudden your day's over. Because once you hit dinner time, then it's usually pretty busy in the evening. And so I always look forward to obviously teaching opportunities, but finding people as well, and just meeting all kinds of new people that are out and about. So I was there almost 8 months, so it's my longest area by far, and one of the most fun. Because you're with people your age, and so they can relate to you, you can relate to them. I think using that to your advantage, it was probably the best thing about serving on campus. And what I mean is that you can understand people in a way that they feel helped when you talk to them. And so we talked to a lot of students that were stressed with school or were out of the house for the first time and felt more comfortable searching for religion. Maybe they had wanted something in the past, but now that they were on their own, they felt like they could finally do that without being judged or forced to do something they didn't want to do. And so as we talked to a lot of the friends of the members in the single adult ward there, that's when we really had a lot of fun talking to people and got to know a lot of different people, and were able to help people in the way that they were looking for. And that was the best part. But I'd say well, there's an institute building on campus, and so Boise State's got a great institute program. Their building it's right across the street, and that's where we had most of our lessons. And in fact, I remember it was my 21st birthday, and we had dinner at some members' house, and they invited like a whole bunch of other young single adults, and so it was just a bunch of us. Felt like we were just kind of there having fun. We shared a message afterwards, and it kind of felt like our group of friends, and we've really felt like a part of the ward. Then we went to the institute building for a lesson at 6, 7, 8, and I just remember thinking, man, I'm on a college campus. It's my 21st birthday, and I can only imagine what most people are doing when they turn 21. This time of life. But like I had back to back lessons, and I was like more happy than I'd ever been. And so just teaching people about God, about Jesus, and then a couple of the investigators that we're teaching, they made me this birthday cake, and they sang, and we took pictures. It was awesome. I mean, it really just made my day. And so I had a lot of fun serving on campus because we kind of just felt like we were a part of the environment and part of the group. And the more you can do that, I think, as a missionary, the more success you'll have. And so that was a lot of fun. I also served in a different area in Nampa that had a college campus, but it was Northwest Nazarene University. And so they didn't let us close to the campus, really. They didn't want us there. And in fact, there were a couple stories about how, like, you can go on Mormon.org, refer yourself. Well, I think a couple of these students at Northwest Nazarene referred themselves to the Mormon missionaries. I remember driving through campus and being a little skeptical because I wasn't sure what was going on, because we'd never been, it's kind of new to me that we'd get a call there. And turns out it's some hoax, and then you get some crazy stuff, girls calling and this and that, and so we kind of avoided that, and that was a tough scene. They didn't really like the Mormon missionaries there, but Boise State was tremendous, and we had a lot of students come from California, Eastern Idaho, all over the Northwest, and members, non-members. But just an amazing opportunity to get to know students and really help them, because if a lot of people our age, we know what other people are looking for. We know how other people want to feel, and especially when it comes to religion and God. And so that was just so much fun, being able to talk to people about that, and some of my best friends I made while serving at Boise State. So I was serving on Boise State's campus, and most of the students were gone for Christmas break. And I think the semester was going to start on January 17th or 18th or something like that. And so the couple weeks leading to that, my companion and I, and then the ward mission leader and the bishop and the rest of the ward council, were kind of planning how we could do sort of a missionary work themed sacrament meeting / welcome back, beginning of the semester type thing. And we're planning this sacrament meeting, where we'll have a couple speakers and things like that. And we had it all planned out for the Sunday just before the semester started, and we thought most students would be back. And so that's what we did. And our plan was to hand out copies of the Book of Mormon to everybody that came, and said, hey, read this, mark it up with like maybe some friends in mind, and then give it to someone and see if it doesn't help them in their lives somehow. And so that was our plan. And to start off, these recent converts, Ian and Claire, they spoke and just gave these amazing, powerful testimonies of their conversion. They'd just been baptized maybe a couple months before. And there wasn't a dry eye in the whole place, and it was just, the Spirit was so strong. And so me and my companion got up and sat down as fast as we could. And then the ward mission leader came up, and he started talking about the ward's hopes, like what we hope can happen as we hand out these copies of the Book of Mormon and think a little bit more about missionary work this semester. And it was just, it's the best sacrament meeting I've ever been to. And so afterwards, my companion and I stood at each store, and we just had a box of the copies of the Book of Mormon, and we were giving them out. And this guy, Greg, comes up and says, hey, he was thinking about taking the lessons, and he said, I'd like to meet with you guys. And we said, well, absolutely. And he's like, can we meet tomorrow? And we said, yes, we can. And so we met the next day, and then we met again later that week, I think, and we invited him to be baptized, and he said yes. And 4 weeks later, he was baptized, and just it wasn't too long ago that he got sealed to his wife in the Salt Lake City temple, and we went out there and just got to visit with them, and it was just an awesome kind of story where a really powerful sacrament meeting and the Spirit could prompt somebody to do something. I don't know that they were going to come to that ward. I think it was his first time in that building, and it just happened to be that Sunday where he felt really prompted, and so that's what they did. And his wife now, Nicole, was his girlfriend who kind of brought him to church, and they'd been reading the Book of Mormon already. I mean, he was just so prepared, and I think the spirit of that sacrament meeting, it was at least part of his decision to start taking the lessons and meeting with the missionaries. There was also someone else that came to that award for the first time. Her name was Robin, and she still had lots of questions after that sacrament meeting, but I think she felt something, and I think it made her a little bit more curious. And it was probably a month and a half or 2 months later that we started meeting with her, and she eventually got baptized. And then I think there was another investigator that also came for the first time that Sunday, and we started teaching him, and I was transferred before I saw anything happen there. But the sacrament meeting wasn't the only reason. Obviously, these people had been thinking about it, and they had influences far greater than our plan for sacrament meeting. But it was just nice that the sacrament meeting that we had, and the spirit that was there, really brought out the best in people, and like really prompted them to act more quickly on some of their feelings. And it was just an amazing Sunday. And so that was just a cool story, and kind of a cool experience for me to just realize the power of sacrament meeting, of people's conversion stories, of their testimonies, and the kind of spirit that they can bring in our lives. So it was awesome. We had an investigator named Sheila, and in fact, she's the first investigator I ever taught. It was my first full day in the field. We went to Sheila's house, and she was just spiritually receptive. And I just remember teaching her, and we were talking about the restoration of the gospel, and she was having some difficulties with a number of different things, and we promised her that if she came to church, she'd feel the Holy Ghost, and she'd feel God's love. And so she came, and as she started gaining momentum in her testimony of the gospel and of God, and that He was really there for her, she really started to try and do some more things to have that more in her life. And so she started reading the Book of Mormon. Well, one morning we came over, and we woke her up knocking on the door late that afternoon, and she told us she'd been up all night reading the Book of Mormon. She couldn't put it down. And we just said, wow, well, what'd you like? And she's telling us these scriptures from everywhere about just sort of the peace that God can give her and us. And so she read it all that night, and it was, an amazing feat. And she had some issues smoking, and so she had difficulty overcoming that right away. Well, about a year later, I got a letter from her saying that she was going to be baptized in a couple weeks, and so she invited me to come to the baptism, and we went back, and she'd finally been able to quit smoking, and it's interesting to see the testimony develop, but just having difficulty overcoming that smoking addiction. She had to wait and wait and wait, and she tried, and she was discouraged because she wasn't able to do it at first, and then that took a little more time, and so, but finally things came around, and she was able to quit, and we went back for the baptism, and she was just so strong in her feelings of God and what He had done for her. He helped her quit smoking, and He brought peace to her life. She had a lot of difficult things she had to deal with, and a difficult family situation and things like that. But she always felt good when she was praying and reading, and she knew that God loved her. And so when she was baptized, she immediately was just this strong member, and was just a real inspiration for everyone around her. And so it's just kind of cool though that she took all night to read the Book of Mormon, and was just so inspired by it that she just couldn't stop reading until she just fell asleep and just passed out on the couch. And so we were really proud of her when she did that. I'd say to those called to the Idaho Boise mission, or Nampa or Twin Falls, that there are few places in the church like Southwest Idaho. People, the culture, and just the feeling that you get. And so it's just an awesome place to be, an awesome place to serve. So many good people that you'll meet that are prepared. I think that's one of the promises that's made to missionaries, is that people will be prepared to receive them and the message. And I don't think that's ever been more evident to me than in Boise. And so as you look forward to that, I think you can experience a lot of just things that'll help you understand that and know that you're in the right place. Whether it's, you're riding your bike and people are honking their horn and waving at you, or you're walking and people stop to give you a ride to your next place, or you're just so stuffed from your second dinner of the night, or people are giving you potatoes and all kinds of food and goodies to take home for Christmas or to send to your parents, or maybe some little boy's passing you a note in sacrament meeting saying how much he looks up to you. There's so much to look forward to in Boise. But more important than that, like I mentioned, the people that you'll teach, you'll become friends with for life. And this is true anywhere, but in Boise, they're going to be close, and you'll be able to talk to them, and so it's just a great place to be, and you'll be able to attend the temple and just meet some good members that'll coach you and help you in life, and be a model for the kind of person and the kind of family that you want to be and have. And so congratulations.
I remember my very first day, our mission president encouraged my trainer all the trainers, to take the new missionary to meet the bishop. And so I remember, walking to Bishop's house and just sitting there and feeling so overwhelmed, because I thought, we're going to go home and unpack and I'm going to rest. No, we got right to work, and I just remember sitting there and just thinking, this is day one. This is so exciting. I've been waiting for this for a long time. And because you're in the MTC for a while, and so you're ready to meet people and teach. And we actually had a lesson that very first day, and I remember my trainer told me that I would have to invite that person to be baptized. And I was so scared, this is my very first day. I'm introducing myself to everyone as Whistly. I completely blanked. I'm not Sister Rebel anymore, and I just didn't, I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember inviting that person to be baptized, and the person said no. And so that was very shocking to me, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that for the first day. But I think having those experiences in my very first day on the mission field was very real to me, that missionary work was real, and how important it was and how hard it was. Because, we think that everybody's going to say yes, and in the very first day I got a no. And so it really helped me to expect anything from anyone. Just knowing that missionary work is hard, but it is fun. And the very first weeks, I felt really tired all the time. And I was very excited and very nervous because I felt like I wasn't a good teacher, and I was doing my best to study in the morning, but it was just, it's hard. It's an adjustment. But I had a really good trainer, and she really helped me to get things going and not feel so overwhelmed in my first week on the mission. But mostly it's just praying that really helps you to calm down your nerves and not overwhelm yourself, because it is overwhelming. It's a new experience. You might be in a different country, speaking in a different language, in a different culture, and those are things that might overwhelm you. But as you pray, as you seek for the Lord's help, then He can truly help you and help that transition to be smoother. So I served from January 2015 until August 2016. And the mission just split right before I left, right before I came home. So the mission now is very different. But when I was there, for the most part, our mission was very small. So all the missionaries were like 20 minutes apart from each other. And so I think because our mission was so small, we were like a family because we knew each other. We would see each other like every P day, and the mission office was in my area or 10 minutes away, and so we would always go to the mission office. And I think because we were so close and it was such a small mission that you had a really good relationship with your mission president, and I think that's like something that I'm so grateful for, because some missions you barely see your mission president, and we were able to receive trainings from him very regularly and just be able to work close with him. And our mission, so it was very small and lots of members, and the members are just amazing. They were very helpful and very supportive of missionary work, and I'm so grateful for the leadership in the church in Boise, because we had so many great stake presidents and bishops, and that made missionary work so much easier because of how great they were and how involved with missionary work they were. And so I think that was definitely something that I loved about my mission, how we could have a great communication with the stake president and the bishop and the ward mission leader, and just having that really great relationship with the members in general. But also, Boise, there's a lot of refugees, which I didn't think that there was refugees there. But there's lots of refugees, and so you were able to get to know people from different countries and different cultures. And I think that was very, very fun to me, because I come from Brazil, and there's a lot of mix in Brazil. And so just being able to see people and understand, who they are and where they come from, I think that was very important to me. And it was something that I could relate to them. I'm not from here either. I'm from Brazil. And so it was always like a great start to initiate a conversation with them. And also, I would live in Boise because everybody is so family-centered. Everyone, it doesn't matter what religion they are, they love their families. And on the weekends, it was kind of hard, but they would always be out doing outdoor stuff and just with their families. And so I think that was very easy for you to talk to people on the streets about their families and how much they love them. And that led into, hey, let me teach you more about the plan of salvation and how your family can be together forever. And so it was a very good experience to me, just learning more about families and even thinking about my own family and how much I appreciated them. Just seeing all these strong families that sometimes were not even of our own belief, but I was grateful for what they taught me and for loving their families. Because a lot of people in Boise knows missionaries very well, that sometimes was very hard, because you would be walking on the street and they know who you are and they don't want to talk to you. And so it was very hard to get that, to get them to try to talk to you. And And so what we did in our mission a lot was service, and we had an initiative called Just Serve that we used a lot. And so we would go to a thrift store, or we had places assigned for us to go, and days and hours and everything. And we would go and we would just serve them. And I think that was, at the beginning, the people would be kind of like weirded out, and then they start like warming up and talking to us more. And there was a lady, we were helping at this thrift store, and she came to us and she was asking questions about the temple and just things that she heard of it, and she asked us if it was true or not. And so it was like really cool to be able to have that relationship with the people, because you worked once a week, and so you kind of got to know the people a little bit more. And I think our mission was a mission that we served one another and everyone. And so it was very rewarding to, even if the people were not interested in learning more about the gospel, we still believed that we needed to serve one another. And so we did a lot of service projects, and that opened a lot of doors that otherwise we would never get into. But I think that if I could do anything different, I would really try hard to talk to everyone, because I felt like I was really good at it, but sometimes I wouldn't. And so there are some people that I didn't talk to them about the gospel, and I don't know. I don't know what would have been different if I did or not, but I think really you get scared, and you don't know what to say. You have so many things going on in your mind, like, do I say hi? Do I just say, hey, do you want to be baptized? Like you don't know what kind of answers, what kind of questions to ask. And so I felt like if I could do anything different, I would just not think about what to say, but just go and just try to talk to them, because I could have done better at that. So we didn't have a lot of investigators as much as I would like. My sister served in Brazil, and so sometimes I would email her and tell her, this is like how much we had we had this many lessons this week, and she would tell me like, oh, we had like triple that, and it was very different than what I was used to about missionary work. And so our mission, it was mostly reactivation. So we worked a lot with less actives, trying to bring them back. And we still had like teaching opportunities, and I've helped people to get baptized. But most of the work was less active work, and just trying to help those people to come back. And that's something I'm very grateful for, because my dad is less active, and so I was able to kind of see how I could help him when I came home, and just other members of my family. And we always are surrounded by people that are not going to church anymore. And so I think that helped me to learn how to work with them and help them to feel again the spirit that they felt once they were baptized. And so I think that was something very awesome about our mission, just working with less actives and just knowing that they are important. And they, our mission president would always talk about how the less actives are so important, because they already have made those covenants. And so they're, not in a way a step ahead, but they already have made those covenants. And so that we needed to rescue them and bring them back. And so I think that was really cool, just getting to know those people. And a lot of their families, were praying for a long time for that person to come back. And I was able to experience some things like that, where that family member came back, and just to see the happiness of all the family, that never gave up on that person. So I think that was really cool for me. Besides less active work, I don't remember numbers, but I remember that, because we still talked about how we had people in Boise to teach, and most of the people in Boise are not members, and so, which is kind of surprising, because you think about Idaho, you think about, oh, everybody's Mormon. But no, there's a lot of people that have moved from different places, refugees, and so they are there and learning the culture and everything. So you have a lot of opportunities to not only serve and reactivate, but to teach as well. And because there's a lot of families, you can baptize families as well. So I think that's pretty cool. So I started my mission in a singles ward. So I was there for 7.5 months. Why I say 7th. And then in the Meridian East stake. And then I got transferred like 2 streets down to Meridian stake. And I was in the Hunter ward, and it was half square mile. It was a very tough ward. My favorite ward. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Maybe I can't. I don't know. But it was just very different to learn how to serve in such a small area. And 90% of the people that lived in that area, in the half square mile, were members, active members. And so we got to work with the members a lot. And I spent Christmas there. So it was such a good area to spend Christmas, because I felt like I spent with my family. And then I got transferred to Boise Central, just by the temple. So my church building was just next to the Boise Temple. And that was really cool, just to see the temple all the time. And just to kind of think the importance of the temple, and that we, ultimate goal wasn't just to help people to get baptized, but to be sealed as families. And so that was very special to me. And so I was in Boise Central in 2 wards, the Coalhaven and the Bitterroot. And then I got transferred. I was in Hidden Springs for a little bit, and then I got transferred to Amity in the Meridian 14th ward. So we were in the middle of nowhere. Well, not really, but it was very farm land. But it was the closest we could get to a potato field, because I thought I was going to serve in the middle of the farms, but that wasn't our mission at the time. So that was, I saw cows every day, so that was great. But those are the areas that I served in. I'm just grateful for my companions. I'm not going to talk, about every single one of them, but I love them, and I'm grateful for what they've taught me, and even the hard ones, because I think that's when I learned the most, and that's when I learned how to rely on the Lord. Because you literally can't call your family. You can't really call your leaders, your district leader or zone leaders or mission president all the time. And so all you have is really the Lord to pray and to talk about and to tell him what's going on. So I think that was really helpful for me. Something that I would suggest, I got a blessing one time on the mission that said for me to keep a journal. And I had just started this goal to write in my journal every single night. And I wrote in my journal every single night for 15 months. And so I have like 3 or 4 journals from the mission. But it was something that, I don't know why, I got a blessing that said that. But I know, because it said in the blessing that I would use the experiences of my mission in the future. And so I would just suggest to write things down. You're not going to remember everybody. You're not going to remember every single spiritual experience you have. You're not going to remember people's names. But it's good that you write things down. And, my dad is less active, as I said before. And during my mission, I was able to get his mission journal. And my mom sent to me, and I never heard my dad's testimony, but on his journal, I was able to find his testimony. And that was like a treasure to me. And so you never know, your journal might be for you in the future, or it might be for your future kids and generation, or, for someone else that might help them. And so I think journals are very important, and keep your journal. It's very hard because you have no time, but make time to write the things that are sacred and spiritual that you have during your mission. And write your family good emails, because they can be blessed by your emails as well. Because I feel like a lot of times you just want to chat with your friends and stuff, but just write them a long email, even if it's not that long, just the main things that happened that week and spiritual things and people that you're teaching, because they want to know. And send pictures, because everybody loves pictures. So when my mom found out I was going to Boise, she bought me a pepper spray. So I'm not sure if I was allowed to have a pepper spray, but I carried it on my bag. And we had we had some buildings that we couldn't go at night. So our bishop told us, no, your sisters, like, don't come here after 8 or something. And so we had some places that we would avoid. In Boise, I felt like a lot of the people were struggling with some kind of addiction. And at least in where I served. And it was hard because then you couldn't get people to progress as fast because you had to help them overcome that addiction first and then be able to get baptized. But it was a learning experience as well. I would describe Boise as crazy. I had a companion that would say that Boise was out of darkness. And I love Boise. It was fun because I think it reminded me of Brazil, so I like bigger cities. So that was kind of like my home. I loved it. But there was, tons of people struggling with addictions. Again, kind of in parole or probation. We had a lot of members that, not a lot of them had, kids. Most of them were elderly and worked in the temple a lot, so that was really cool. We had, in Boise, there was a lot of stores, a lot of things to do in Boise. I think every P-Day we would go to Table Rock and just hike to the top, and you can see the city. It's really pretty. So that was also something that we do in Boise. There was, again, really good, strong members of the church. So there is the Boise State University. That wasn't my area, unfortunately. That was the assistants area. They were very lucky because everybody wanted to serve there. But it was really cool because football games, everybody would dress up with BSU colors, and that was also a good way to start talking to people like, hey, do you like football? Like, is BSU your team? And we would always try to talk about BSU and Boise State. A lot of people go to Boise State there. Most people are from Idaho and they just go to Boise State, which I thought was pretty cool. So they still kind of lived with their families. Boise, there's a lot of small restaurants and small places to eat. Unfortunately, I didn't go to a lot of them because you're a poor missionary, but the members took us out sometimes. They have this, it's a potato ice cream, and that was so cool because it's a vanilla ice cream, but they put powder on the outside, and so it looks like a potato, but it's an ice cream, and it tastes fabulous. And so that was really cool because every time that there was a new missionary or a missionary going home, we would always ask have you had the potato ice cream? And so that was something that we would always do. And they have this, it's kind of super popular in Boise, but it's a wood store that they have wood glasses and wood wallets and just everything made out of wood. But missionaries have had 75% of discount, and so we would always buy stuff from that store. So all the missionaries, you would see them walking around with glasses from Proof, and so it was really fun. It was our mission tradition. Everybody had to have glasses from Proof, but that was super fun. And then just people in Boise just know about that. And in Boise, just a cool story. One of the members worked in a really tall building, and he had access to the very last little place in the building. And so we got to go to the very top and see the whole city, and so that was really fun. The whole place had glass windows, and so it was really cool just to see Boise, the whole city. There's also the Capitol building, and we had a member that would take the missionaries for tours inside of the Capitol building, and he would always tell us that we needed to be quiet so we could be a good example for the senators and the people that were there. So it was really fun. We actually went to a live, I don't know what they called, but they were having a session going on, and we were sitting on the top, and there's a few members of the Senate that are members of the church. And while they were there, one of the senates that are from our church, he stood up and said, well, we would like to recognize the missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so everybody started clapping for us. And that was like really cool, because then that goes in the book that they have. So I don't know, that was like a little fun memory of Boise that I have, but it was super fun. It's very cold. I would say that it's very similar to Utah, so dry, hot in the summer, cold in the winter. I was there and it wasn't very cold. It was pretty cold, but we had cars and so we were fine. But the weather is not too bad. I like the cold. I don't like so much summertime because I'm from Brazil. It's kind of funny, but I'm not a hot weather person. But people go to cabins all the time from Boise and Meridian. They just like to go fishing. They're very outdoor people, and so that's really cool, because you would always see people on the street, and it would make it easy for you to talk to them because they're always doing something. So very hardworking people, very loving people. The majority of them, we would knock on their doors. Of course, there's always some people that are not very nice, but I would describe the people from Idaho very loving, and some people would even say, I don't believe in what you believe, but I'm grateful that, instead of doing drugs and doing other things, like, you are young and you're here serving and doing good things. And so that was really rewarding that people would recognize that, because it's true. We're 19, 20, 21-year-olds. Instead of partying and doing different things, we're dedicating our time to serve the Lord. And so that was really cool that people recognize and acknowledge that, So Hidden Springs, I wasn't there for very long. We were in a trio when we were in Hidden Springs. We had Hidden Springs in Boise 13th, which was the very center of Boise, and that was very crazy. But Hidden Springs, they have their own little community, and they're very wealthy, I would say, more wealthy than the rest. So they had like really nice homes and not so many members. It's very small, and you drive from Boise probably like 15 minutes to get there. And just really nice people, very polite, very reserved people, I would say. So we had a kind of hard time getting doors open. A lot of the members told us to not really knock on doors, so we would work more with the members and trying to visit the people that were less active. So it was a tough area, but it was very pretty, and the people were very nice in general. So that was fun to serve there. We actually had to drive. We were trying to find this house it was a par member family. So the lady was a member and her husband wasn't. And we got to this, really strange place that said, like, do not pass. And we're like, okay, well, we're pretty sure, like, the GPS is telling us to go to this place, so we have to pass. So we passed, and then we talked to a guy. So we drove for about 5 minutes, and then we talked to this guy, and he said, well, her house is over there. And so we had to, like, drive another, 5 minutes to get to her house. So we had driven a lot to get to her house, and we were actually with a member that was thinking about going on a mission. Our stake was doing a missionary day, and so she was with us deciding if she wanted to go on a mission or not. So we were 4 of us, 3 full-time missionaries and then her. And we got to this house, and her husband opened the door, and he let us in, and we were confused because, we've heard things about, that family that we were sure, and they were older. He was probably in his late 80s, I would say. And so he called his wife, and she came, and she sat down, and they both talked to us for a long time. And then, she told us that she would record songs, so she took us downstairs, and her songs were pretty funny. She talked to us, about her life a little bit, and she told us how she was grateful that we had come by and talked to her, and she hadn't had visits in a while. And when we, reported that we had that visit with Bishop, he was very surprised because he told us that they never let anybody else in. And so it was just like a little miracle, and just to know that we got into that house in the middle of the mountains, that it was just a really cool experience, just getting there and just finding out later, like, oh, nobody have gotten to the house in like years. And so just like little tender mercies and just getting to know that family a little bit more. But Hidden Springs was just a little bit far from what we were used to it, because everything was so close together. And so if you went to serve in Hidden Springs or Star, you were like in the exiled from the mission, but not really. But yeah, Hidden Springs, we had a lot of people with good careers, like doctors, dentists, just very, very good careers that would pay very well. So they fed us really good food too. That was really nice. But yeah, it was really good, like, to see, just to come from like one area that everybody's poor and everybody's struggling, and then go to an area that like everybody is, has a good career and they have good lives. I would say that when people are not really happy with their lives, at least that's what I've noticed, that they tend to kind of search for something else because they want something different, they want to feel different. And so I think that's why I loved so much serving in more poor areas, because people would be more humble to accept something else, to try something else, And so I think that was very good that I served in Boise, because that's how Brazil is like. A lot of the people would be very receptive to the gospel because they have nothing else. And so they're trying something different. And so I really liked all those areas, but Hidden Spring was really fun. Just have, something different than when I was used to it. So Meridian is a newer city. It used to be very small, and then lots of farmlands, and then people bought their houses. So it's a very new neighborhood. So all the houses are newer. And in Meridian, there's a lot of families because they liked so much. It's just such a safe environment that they just moved to Meridian. And in Meridian, well, a lot of the people don't work in Meridian because it's really tiny, and you go on Eagle Road and you're in Boise. So really Meridian is just a bunch of houses and neighborhoods. And most people in Meridian that I remember, they worked, there's this big company that I can't remember right now the name, but it was like an electric company. There's tons of people that worked there. And there is a lot of assisted living houses and homes in Meridian, and I got to visit a lot of elderly people, and that was such a fun experience, just to help them, and that was really fun. But Meridian, it was most like just families, younger kids, and just families that moved from different places. So I haven't really met a lot of people that were like born and raised in Idaho and had their families there. Most people were from different places, from California or Arizona or from Utah. So that was really fun. So when I served in Meridian, I served in a YSA ward, in a young single adults ward, and I was there for 7.5 months. So that was it was a long time to serve in one area. But I taught a lot of people that had gone out of prison, and my mom was very scared at it because I would email her and she would always be like, "Don't, make sure that like when you go home, like nobody's around you," and she was very funny about it. But it was just so cool to to teach those people and just know that they were trying so hard to change their lives and to get out of, whatever they've done in the past or whatever addiction they were on. So a lot of the people that I taught in YSA were men and were in probation or parole, or lived in a halfway house. And so it was very humbling to me to just know, see them struggle and just know how much the gospel would bless them and how much the gospel has blessed me and kept me from being in trouble, But I think one of the experiences I have in that area, when I served in Meridian, there was this guy, so me and my companion, we went to this house to contact one of the less active members that lived in that house. And we knocked on the door, and he had moved out from that apartment, but he had different roommates. And we talked to this guy, his name's Oliver, and we talked to him a little bit about the gospel, and he was like, yeah, sure, you can come back. And so we went back, and we taught him about 2 lessons. And then we just didn't teach him anymore. I think he just was busy, and just things didn't work out. And then when I got back from my mission, just recently, I got a text from him, and on Facebook, and he told me that I'll just read it because I thought it was really cool. He said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I do remember you. Recently, I randomly thought of you, Sister Rebello, and I hope that you and your companion are loving life right now. What you two brought to my door was awesome, and I'm very, very thankful for it. I'm not very good at wording things like this, but long story short, I needed something like that in my life at that time, and it really brought my optimism back to life. I hope that made sense." And it was just like this sweet little message that he sent that it reminded me that there's a lot of people that you get in contact in the mission that you might teach 1 or 2 lessons, or you maybe have talked on the street, that you never really see the fruits. You never really know what happened, and you never know if those people will ever join the church or not. But I think that little sweet message to me was just Heavenly Father telling me like that the work that I did in Boise was right, and that I've touched people's lives, and they've for sure touched my life. But just knowing that we never know. You might teach someone, and they might not seem receptive as Oliver did at the time, but I'm grateful to know that impacted his life somehow, and it made him have hope and be a better person. So I think that makes me really happy just to know that you're not only going to see success on your mission, but I think even just getting to somebody's door or talking to someone is a success. It's you trying to share what you know to be true and what you know that will bless their lives. And so I think that's one of the experiences I have in Meridian. I just love the members, and I gained 20 pounds when I was in Meridian, so I'm grateful for all they fed me. And I think a lot of people in Meridian, or maybe in Boise, both, I think, they're hunters. And so I ate really good food, and I ate elk one time, and it was really good. So that was super fun, because I never been shooting or anything like that. So that was super fun just to see all their like hunting gears and stuff. So that was very, very different. And it was something that you could talk to people about it. You kind of try to like stalk people on the street and see what they like to do and see what they're dressing, and you just kind of try to find something common to talk to them about. But it was fun. So I feel like I haven't talked about my mission president and his wife, and I feel like they're the biggest, blessing of my mission, because I had 2 mission presidents, but I've had President Winder for 17 months, and then I had President Bartlett for a month. And so I want to talk more about President Winder because I know him more. But President Winder, his wife, Sister Winder, they're literally the sweetest person you ever meet. And President Winder, he's so knowledgeable. He is just so spiritual that when he walks into a room, you just feel the Spirit so strong. And I always, try to think like, what Heavenly Father looks like. What would you feel if you were around Heavenly Father? And I felt like every time I was around President Winder, I could imagine that feeling, or I could imagine how Heavenly Father would look like. I think that President Winder is really my role model because Jesus Christ is first. But I say that because I didn't grow up with my dad. I have 3 older sisters. And so having a priesthood holder or having that male figure around me wasn't very something that I had. And so just to know someone that would care about me, that would love me and would try to help me and that would teach me about the gospel, that was something very special to me. And just knowing that a lot of the times where I struggled on the mission, I would always call President Winder or his wife, and they would listen to me and they would love me and they would encourage me to. President Winder always knew what to say, and that was fantastic to me because he always knew what scripture to share. He always knew exactly how to help you, and he was selfless. He worked very hard, and Sister Winder, adorable Sister Winder, she was just an amazing woman and helped me to get along with companions. She would always have the best advice ever. And so I'm really grateful for them, and I think that's what made my mission so much better. It was the Winders. And just knowing the love that they had for the gospel first, for their Savior, and for us missionaries, how everything that they did was to help us and encourage us and to help us to become like Christ. And just knowing that I was assigned to that mission at that time because of my mission president and his wife as well. That was something that Elder Martino of the 70, when he came to our mission, that's what he said, that our mission presidents were our mission presidents because it was meant to be. We couldn't work and do the work that we did without them. And so I'm so grateful for them and for all that they taught me and for all the advice they gave me. And just, that's something else too that I haven't said, but you have to listen to your mission president and his wife. You have to follow them. Even though sometimes you're going to have multiple mission presidents, too, and you might not agree with how one does things different than the other, but you have to support them and love them and just know that they love you and they care about you and they want to help you. They want you to grow and change and become better. But yeah, I think that's what one of the things that I love about Boise, Idaho mission. It's my mission presence for sure. About 15 degrees, and I didn't have a really good coat. I did, but not that day, so I was freezing, and I felt like I didn't have good socks. Nobody told me that it was going to be that cold, and so my feet would freeze all the time. So just cold. Really nice shoes, and I brought many good clothes. I would just bring clothes that it can get ruined and is not very expensive because you want to sit on the floor. You want to, do things that sometimes you have to do, like service opportunities, because we had a lot of service. Sometimes we could, if you were in your nice clothes, then you wouldn't really want to do service. So just take plain, comfortable clothes that you can do whatever with it. Spiders. If you consider that wild animals, we lived my last area. I swear we killed spiders every single day. And I had a companion because I was more afraid of spiders than she was. So we would get water bottles and she would put them inside of the water bottles. And we had so many, and we found so many spiders every single day, and it was just awful. Literally, they would be hanging from the ceiling and they were huge. And one time we found this really huge one. It was so big and it was outside and we were freaking out. And we have a video. It's so funny, but yeah, I hate spiders. I really hate spiders and snakes. I was riding a bike one time with my companion and I ran over a snake, and that was not fun. So that was really scary. So yeah, just a snake and thousands of spiders. The atonement is real. Companions. Some of them. I was telling a friend, we just had this argument one time about this green table that I wanted to use for personal study and she wanted to use in the kitchen. And I think that was like one of the craziest experiences of my mission, because it was so dumb that we were fighting over the green table, and we always talk about the green table, and it was kind of like our joke. Later on, it was like, oh, that green table though. So it was just so funny, but it was ridiculous. Actually, there's a crazy story too. That same companion, we weren't companions anymore, but we were living in the same apartment, and we needed a couch because the couch that we had was awful. And we talked to the mission office, and they wouldn't get us a couch because they said it was fine. And that was an elder apartment, so it was really bad. And it was not really it smelled really bad, the couch. So we're like, okay, we need to get rid of this couch. So I was driving with my companion, we saw a couch outside, and I told my companion I wanted that couch, and she said no. So we went inside, and I talked to my older companion, and she's like, yeah, let's go get it. So it's like 9:30 at night, we're carrying this couch from the dumpster inside of our apartment, and it was just awful because it was so heavy, but we made it, and we washed everything, we cleaned everything with bleach, and my companion was really mad. She said she would never sleep in that couch and not even sit down because she was so mad at me. And then the next day she was sleeping in the couch, so it was worth it. It was very comfortable, and I'm very proud of us for getting that couch from the dumpster. So it was fun. While we were teaching this investigator, he had come out from prison, so he lived a life. And I talked about cheating, and it sounded like the S word, and so he was laughing, and my companion was laughing, and I had no idea what they were laughing about, and they're like, say one more time, cheating. And so they just told me later what I said, and it sounded like something else, so that was really funny. And then another investigator, we were reading the scriptures, and I think that word was utterance, and I said something different, that it sounded, like just funny. So everybody started laughing, and I had no idea why they were laughing. So a lot of the times, like, people would be laughing, and I had no idea why they were laughing, and my companions would tell me later. But I think those were the biggest ones. That it was really funny at the time, I promise. But there's two stories that came to mind right now. They're both very spiritual, but there is this investigator that we taught in Boise, and I mentioned that a lot of people had addictions, and he had a pornography addiction and alcohol addiction. And the alcohol addiction he's been fighting for a long time, and he told us that he didn't start drinking until he was 30, and it just became in 2 years it pretty much took everything that he had, and he was in rehab 5 times and nothing worked, and the sisters were teaching him for about 2 years, and he wanted to get baptized, had a testimony and everything, but he just couldn't give up his addiction. And so we would go to his house every single night, and we wouldn't go in because it was just 2 sisters and he was a single man, so we would stand by his door, and every time he would open the door, you could smell the alcohol inside of the house, and he looked drunk, and you could tell that he was drinking, and his name is Brent. And we'd always talk to him and be, Brent, you drank again. And he would be very, depressed and feel really bad about himself. And so we would share a scripture, uplift him, say a prayer. We would kneel down on the floor right there, and we would say a prayer with him. And we did that for a long time with him. And then he was in the hospital for a while, just, struggling to quit. And a lot of people were helping. The bishop was very supportive, and everyone just trying to help him. And he ended up getting baptized when I came home. After, I think, 2 weeks, he was baptized. And then 2 weeks later, he passed away. And that was a very, powerful experience to me, just knowing that, Heavenly Father loved Brent so much that he gave him the opportunity to get baptized before he passed away, and that Brent is in a better place now, in that he's doesn't struggle with that addiction anymore, and he's doing what he always dreamed of doing. He had such a powerful testimony, and Satan was working so hard with him. And so it was just, I think about Brent, I think about him so happy, and just, he was this big guy. And so it's just a really, one of the most inspiring experiences I had on the mission, just knowing that, like, he made it, he was baptized, and that, all the struggles he went through in this life was worth it, because Heavenly Father gave him the opportunity to accept the gospel before he passed away. And so I think that, shows me that, yeah, addictions are real, and they're very powerful and very destroying, and it will kill you if you don't stop. And he didn't die from his addiction, but he had a really hard life with his addiction. And so I think that helped me to see how blessed I was for my religion and for my beliefs, and knowing that I never want to be there. And because it was painful to watch him struggle, but just knowing that with the atonement of Jesus Christ, everything is possible. And him quitting his addiction and getting baptized was truly a miracle. So, and then there's another story in my last area. There was this couple. They're the sweetest couple ever. They love each other. They're like teenagers. They're like madly in love with each other. And Brother Kerry is the funniest person I know. And he was not really going to church. And when I got to the area, so I had met him before, because I was a sister train leader, and I would come on exchanges. And so I had met him before, and he wouldn't talk to the sisters. And so I've heard about the Carries for a long time. And then I ended up getting transferred there for my last area on the mission. And we start working with Brother Kerry and Sister Kerry was very active. And Brother Kerry was coming back, and something happened. We just clicked, and Brother Kerry would tell us all the time how much progress we have made with him in such a short time that we were there. And it was funny, because the Spirit, he will tell you hard things to do. Like, I felt like the Spirit, he will tell you things that are hard for you to do, because, I don't know, at least that's how it worked for me. And I remember my last 2 weeks on the mission, we had been working with him for a long time, and we wanted him and his wife to get sealed. But, it had a process, and he wouldn't open up to us. And so we needed him to do that. And I felt prompted that he needed to give me a blessing. And in my mind, I'm going, why would he give me a blessing? He's less active. Like, I can't ask him for a blessing. Like I can't. And that, it was very strong, and I needed to ask him. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, he's going to think I'm crazy. Like, obviously, he gave his wife one blessing the entire time they were married. So I'm like, I know he's not going to give me a blessing. Like, and he can't. Like, I was just, all these things going through my mind, and I'm just freaking out. And I'm like, and so I tell my companion, and she's like, okay. So we go there, and I'm like, how am I going to ask him that? Like, I don't know. So I was just freaking out. We go inside, and his wife just stays downstairs, it was a miracle, because she's usually with us visiting. I'm like, okay, I got to do it. It's like, hey, Brother Kerry, I feel like you need to give me a blessing. And his eyes got big. He went to his room. He grabbed a little priesthood blessing thing, and he came back, and he sat, and he started crying, and he told me, I can't do that because I'm not worthy. And that really hit me, because he understood, that he couldn't. And then I felt so dumb, because I was like, why did I even ask him for that? But that's exactly what he needed to happen, because he ended up telling us his struggles. And it was something that, we've been working with him for 2-3 months. And he finally told us, and we were able to help him. And we were like, well, we can, set an appointment for you to talk to Bishop. And right at that moment, the counselor of the bishop was at the door. And he came in. So Brother Kerry was like, hey, I need to talk to Bishop. And so it was just perfect how everything worked out. And then Brother Kerry just got sealed to his wife about 2 weeks ago. And I didn't know. But I called him, and he was very thankful for everything that I did for him. But I was very thankful for what he did for me, because that was such a strong spiritual experience that I had, just knowing that I had no idea why the Spirit was telling me to do that, because it didn't make sense in my mind, but just how everything worked out perfectly for Brother Carey and Sister Carrie, and how, sometimes we're afraid to follow the Spirit because it will really ask us to do hard things like Nephi cutting Laban's head. But we don't know, and that's why I think in missionary work, you wake up at 6:30, you are obedient, you do those things because you want to have the Spirit, because without the Spirit, the work is not going to progress. And so if you're not, striving to have the Spirit, and if you're not listening to the Spirit won't talk to you. And sometimes you have promptings like, knock on this door, and you knock on a door and nobody answers, and you're like, what the heck, why? But then you realize that if you listen to those little promptings that you have, the Spirit will give you the big ones because He knows you're going to listen. And so I think that's something that I learned, and I wanted to wake up every day at 6:30 because of that, because I knew that I needed the Spirit. And so I think that's why I was obedient on my mission, because I knew I needed the Spirit, and it feels good. It feels good when you feel the Spirit and you can recognize. And I could say I was pretty spiritual because I sought for that. I prayed for it, and so I sought many miracles because of it. Well, for you that got called to Boise, good luck. Boise is an amazing place, and you're gonna love the members, and you are just so lucky to get called to that beautiful place. Work hard. Missions are not the easiest thing in the whole world, but with the Lord you can do all things. And I know that the members will take care of you. They will feed you good food. You are going to be blessed for the work that you do. And just know that when you do struggle, just remember to pray and to study your scriptures and to forget yourself and go to work, because truly that's what makes you happy, serving others, and that's what you chose to go on a mission. And the Lord will really bless you. He will bless your family, He will bless you, and all the things that you worry about, He will take care of it for you. And Boise is such a beautiful place to me. It's a place that I love. I love the people from Boise, so take care of them for me. And just know that you are meant to be in that mission, and no matter who's your companion, what area you serve in, that's who and where you need to be. And the people that you meet, they all can teach you something, and you can learn from every single one of them, something that will help you not only for the time that you were in the mission, but for the rest of your life. And my mission has meant everything to me. And be obedient, follow your mission president, and be a good companion, be patient, love your companions, serve them, and do your best every day, even sometimes you feel like you're falling short. Just know that the atonement of Christ is there to help you, to change you, to make you better, to heal you, to strengthen you. And just do your best every day, and the Lord will bless you. And I think something that my mission has helped me is just figuring out what matters most in life. And just I always had a testimony, but I feel like my testimony is so much stronger now. So as you study the scriptures, really try to understand what you're reading and try to take it to heart. Not just share with people something that you've learned from your parents, but something that you believe, something that is part of you. And just know that your Savior is what you need. And sometimes you'll feel lonely, and that's okay, because you know that the Savior is there for you, and that's all you need. And I love my mission so much. It has blessed me. It has changed me. It has made me a better person. And I feel like life is so much better now because I can appreciate the little things that Heavenly Father has given me more. And I'm able to remember the people that helped me. And you're going to meet so many amazing people on your mission that will help you so much. And you're going to love them, and you're going to want the best thing for them. But don't forget that they have their agency. and that don't blame yourself if they don't accept the gospel, because they will still have an opportunity to accept one day, and just know you've done your best. And sometimes you won't see people progress, but you have touched their lives, and that's enough. And just know that missionary work is supposed to be fun, so have fun, but also be obedient, and the Lord will bless you.